Story takes place in Rome, 56 miles from the Bay of Naples, 78 AD. There was a young 13-year-old boy named Evan. He and his friend James had saved money to buy a pedal-motored car kit that had 2 seats. The two spent half a year building and perfecting the car. The two were ready for the final test run and agreed to go down an aqueduct. Evan gave explicit instructions to James not to tell his mom or dad, because if he did, then they wouldn't let him. Later at night, at dinner, James told them anyway, and sure enough, they said no, but all he heard was blah, 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 you can't have any fun, blah, 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 it's too dangerous. So James got up from the table like he was going to use the restroom and sprinted out of sight. He jumped through the open window and dashed for Evan's house. James lived on the farm, and his days were busy. By the time he had his chores done and ate dinner, it was about 9 p.m. Evan was in bed by this time. Evan kept many secret passages for James to get in. James shook Evan awake and told him that now was the time. Just put some pillows under your sheets, James instructed. Evan obeyed and then climbed down the rope leading from his bedroom to the ground. The two took off and headed for the garage. They grabbed the car, hopped in, and sped for the nearest aqueduct. Once they got there, they took deep breaths and down they went. Meanwhile, the parents, who had noticed that they were gone, called each other. The boys, however, "Ah!" they screamed. They had come upon the 3 holes that had led to the 3 water supplies for Rome. James' mom was right. The holes were too small. The two jumped out and went their separate ways. The car sped through the middle, smashing into the public Roman baths. And James crashed through the first hole, and the king was not happy to see a 13-year-old kid unconscious in his bathroom. Evan crashed through the 3rd hole and smashed through the public drinking fountains, where his mom and dad stood. Busted. The day after the lifting of Evan's grounding in 79 AD, he explained that all he wanted was to have some fun, because he had no fun in his life on the farm. His parents decided to give him their version of fun. They took him to the Circus Maximus, a famous Roman circus, which is what they called their version of fun. There was an extreme number of games, and Evan wanted to try them all. His family decided to watch the chariot races. His parents sat together while Evan stood in the very back with no seat to sit on. And then he left as if he needed to use the restroom, his favorite strategy. One racer had crashed and left the field. The armor had fit Evan perfectly. He hurtled into the chariot, and with no experience, he had to improvise. He completed only half a lap of the race before crashing and being hit by another chariot. He held onto the bottom of this chariot to avoid death being hit by another chariot. Sure enough, the chariot he was holding onto crashed. He jumped off for dear life and ended up on another chariot. "What are you doing here?" the racer asked. The voice sounded a lot younger than normal racers. It sounded a lot like James. It was no dream. James had the exact same idea as Evan. The horses startled and thrashed in the field. Dust streaked back at the other racers. The crowd extolled. The final lap had come around, and just before they had cut the tape, they saw all 4 of their parents. Evan and James dashed past their parents and didn't stick around for the award ceremony. The parents were irate and dashed after them. Evan and James had been chased almost all day. They headed towards the city of Pompeii, and their chariot rumbled to a mighty earthquake. And they saw ashes billow out of the volcano, and they turned around. Snap! One of the chains broke from the horses, and the car flipped over. It covered both of the boys. The car was luckily made of steel and deflected the lava. Evan explained that soon lava would cover the top, and when it cooled, it would be rock hard and impossible to escape. There was a long moment of silence. "Go!" Evan yelled. James flipped over the cart along with the help of his friends. The chariot acted as a boat and carried the two to safety. After a long ride, they stumbled upon a hotel outside of the city. By this time, the lava was cooled and it was safe to go out. The end.
Loved this story about 2 adventurous boys during Roman times. The blending of modern-day teen attitude, aqueducts, and chariots made this story fun to read. The writer surely enjoys writing. Great story.